terrorist hate crime attack at a synagogue in San Diego. This is happening now. It's becoming a pattern, some kind of loop. There was attack on a church in Sri Lanka, of course. That now it appears that the Sunnyvale person who drove at a number of pedestrians, it appears that he thought that they were Muslim, and that's why he did it. And now we have another shooting at a synagogue. Now there's a question arising about the authenticity of an alleged manifesto that had surfaced, and I'd gotten word of that, and I'd been searching that. I'd been searching for that earlier today, and it does appear, again, it's still unconfirmed now, but it does appear to be some validity to that based on a tweet that I unearthed, thanks to Joe sent me a tip. And it appears that the attack was attempted to be reported by a Twitter user, and it appears that the threat was announced in advance and that there was going to be a plan to live stream the attack. And then there is a manifesto circulating. And this is all, it's just all very sad. This was, of course, the final day of Passover. And everywhere you look, right, one week it's Christians, another week Muslims are being attacked, another week Jews are being attacked. And what I'm seeing on Twitter, frankly, and this is why, I changed my own rhetoric up long time ago, because I saw this stuff happening. People are already trying to weaponize it. People are waiting, I wonder if it was Islamic terrorism, or can we blame this on Trump somehow, or can we blame this on the other side? And that's really where people are at today, and that's not leadership, and that's not where we need to be. Right away, I mean, when I'm reading my own timeline, and people are blaming on the New York Times cartoon, or they're blaming on Ilhan Omar or something, right? But it appears the shooter was a white supremacist shooter this time. Right. Next time, there was an incident in Los Angeles. Dell's here. She probably remembers. There was a attempted Islamic terrorist attack on people outside of Shabbat, and was driving a car and tried to run them down. So that time it was, Islamic. But that's not where people's heads should be. There was a big attack in L.A. They attempted to run over a couple people on Shabbat. And this was in Los Angeles. And then, of course, the media is going to struggle with this because according to the manifesto, he hated Trump because Trump is a Zionist. So when things like this happen now, everyone is trying. It's a sociopathic thing. And I maybe at one point in my life, I was as bad as everyone else, but I've tried to change my ways and not think of who can be blamed and just try to figure out, what is happening on a deep level. And the divisiveness, what people are doing today isn't going to help. Looking at San Bernardino was Islamic attack. The Fort Hood attack was Islamic attack, right? The synagogue shooting in Pennsylvania, though, that was Nazi terrorism. So everybody wants to find a superficial narrative, and I've noticed, I think that it is demonic, however you want to call it. There's just a great evil that has been brewing in this country, and even in this world where in a place of worship now, people are being terrorized. People, and again, everybody, what's the simple narrative? Who can we blame? But moderate Muslims are murdered by Islamic terrorists too. I can't remember who made this point, but it was a great point about Islamic terrorism, which is moderate Muslims are killed by the radical jihadis at greater numbers than anyone else. But that's not something conservatives want to hear, right? Conservatives, they don't want to hear that, no, moderate Muslims are the number one. Nassim Taleb actually pointed that out, where I tweeted out that, Christians are the number one victims of terrorism. And he goes, well, no, it's actually Sunni Muslims. So, and he had a great point there, actually. And we're confined to these simple narratives where you have three separate religions and that's that. And how can you blame this religion for that? And, there's Muslims this, Muslims that. And it sickens me. A lot of the stuff people on my side say about Muslims sickens me. It does. I've said it repeatedly. And I've said it over and over and over again. It's just gross. The way people talk about Muslims is, and I'm not like the ADL light here. I'm not the SPLC light. I'm just talking about what I read in my response to that is, it is vile. It's vile, right? It's vile. But the flip side too is it's vile the way the left talks about white people, when they mention genociding and killing people. based on ideology, or they mention killing Trump supporters or attacking Trump supporters. It's just sickening all over, and blaming other people isn't going to help. Now, so the tweet, and I don't want to list the tweet because the tweet identifies somebody who may be a minor. But I will say, though, that the manifesto that I've seen, based on timestamps that I've seen indicated, there was a tweet saying that there is this terrorist attack that was announced, and the timestamp on the tweet is 11:07 a.m., my time. And then the first report of the attack, so I'm telling you the timestamps again, I'm just being very careful about my reporting here. But at 11:53 a.m., the San Diego Sheriff's Department announced the shooting. At 11:07 a.m., somebody had found advanced notice of the terrorist attack. So this is a tweet. The tweet was 11:07 a.m., where the person announced in advance that there was going to be some kind of attack. So this, again, I'm reading, was 11:07 a.m. The person had found an announcement. There was plans to live stream and everything else. And there was, there was going to be this kind of attack. And already, as I read my notifications, the New York Times today published an anti-Semitic cartoon, and now people are trying, it's like the blame game, right? Everybody wants to blame someone else. And I'm just not part of that. It just isn't who I am. It's not what I want to do. I don't think it's helpful. I don't think it's where we need to be at a country. And then I have people, the Sleeping Giants creep, saying, oh, you're saying these things, and then trying to blame me for this stuff, even though I've banned all that anti-Semitic crap. I banned all these people from my events. But they're looking, can we blame Cernovich somehow? That's where that's the sociopath. This is a nationwide illness we have. We have a live press conference. Let's go watch this right now.
Scanner of a suspect who is called into CHP to report that he was just involved in this shooting, and his location, which was Rancho Bernardo in the Interstate 15. As our officer was exiting the freeway, he clearly saw the suspect in his vehicle. Suspect pulled over, jumped out of his car with his hands up, and was immediately taken into custody by the San Diego Police Department. As the officer was placing this 19-year-old male into custody, he clearly saw a rifle sitting on the front passenger seat of the suspect vehicle. And the suspect, as I said, was taken into custody without any further incident.
This investigation will be led by the San Diego County Sheriff's Department, but it'll be a joint investigation with the San Diego Police Department and the Federal Bureau of Investigation. With us this afternoon is Acting Special Agent in Charge, Omer Mizell. Omer?
Thank you, Sheriff. First and foremost, we'd like to offer our deepest condolences to the victims of this tragedy. As soon as we were made aware of the incident, the FBI deployed resources immediately to the scene. We've deployed all relevant assets to assist with this investigation. We're working closely with our local, state, and United States Attorney's Office on the investigation. And with that, I'll turn it back over to you.
Thanks. The San Diego County Sheriff's Department provides law enforcement services to the city of Poway. We're joined here this afternoon, and would like to say a few words by the mayor of Poway, Steve Voss.
I want you to know, this is not Poway. The Poway I know comes together as we did just a few weeks ago at an interfaith event. We always walk with our arms around each other, and we will walk through this tragedy with our arms around each other. We have deep appreciation for those who showed courage at the Chabad, deep appreciation for the law enforcement agencies that responded so quickly. We will get through this. Our thoughts and prayers will be with the families and those who are investigating. Poway will stay strong, and we will always be a community that cares for one another.
The Anti-Defamation League and our trauma intervention teams have set up a family assistance center at Poway High School to be available to anybody that wants their services. So I would commend people in the community to come together and maybe meet at Poway to talk about the grief that we're all suffering right now. We will be back in about 2 hours with more details as the investigation unfolds. I'll take a few questions if you have any right now.
Sheriff, do you know any details, I guess, about the suspect that you can give us, and maybe even a motivation for this?
We don't. We're not going to release that right now. It's in the process of being interviewed by homicide investigators from the Sheriff's Department and the FBI. We'll have those details later. But
is the open letter that he left, perhaps, is that letter legitimate?
we have copies of his social media posts and his open letter, and we'll be reviewing those to determine the legitimacy of it and exactly how it plays into the investigation.
How many shots were fired?
I don't have the exact number of shots that were being fired. The crime scene is being done as we speak.
Do we know if he's connected to the Chabad?
I'm sorry?
Do you know if he's connected to the Chabad?
I do not know.
Do we know where he came from?
We have an address for him here in San Diego. He's in the city of San Diego. Yes, he's an adult male from the city of San Diego.
Do you know if Christians still inside?
I'm sorry.
Are Christians still inside? Are people able to come out?
Yeah, we have. There are a lot of people still at the synagogue waiting to be interviewed by homicide investigators.
How many people inside? How many were in the room?
I heard there's close to 100 people waiting to be interviewed.
How many were in the room at the time?
I couldn't give you the exact number. I know there's about 100 people to be interviewed right now.
Yeah, he has confirmed.
I couldn't tell you. Sorry.
Was the rabbi injured?
Not that I know of.
I heard something happened.
I don't know all the details on the victims, but
Did the suspect say anything when he was apprehended?
we're not going to discuss that right now while the investigation is ongoing.
So was the off-duty Border Patrol agent inside when this whole thing happened, or did he hear something and then go inside?
My understanding, he was inside the synagogue when the shooting broke out.
Did the man enter the synagogue in the middle of services?
I don't know those details.
Last question, guys. Last
Okay.
question.
Okay. We'll be back in about 2 hours.
Okay, so the sheriff does indicate that what he called the open letter, what other people are sort of calling the manifesto, and the social media posts and everything. So it does appear to give credence to that and to a number of things. And the question, of course, is what do you do now? And the issue is that a lot of the people have to just be monitored by the FBI. The issue is, how do you reconcile free speech with people now going on the internet and saying they're announcing their terrorist attacks, and they're talking about live streaming it like it's just a big video game or something like that. And the question is, how do you reconcile free speech with people now saying, oh, they're gonna go do this and talk about what they're gonna do, and there has to be more vigilance. There has to be more attention being paid to this stuff, including left-wing groups and whatnot. So we just watched a press conference from the Sheriff's Department, and it appears that they're confirming much of what I reported earlier about the manifesto, and Nick is covering it. Nick has been covering it too. So yeah, the suspect is a 19-year-old male. So yeah, again, it all tends to add up. And there was a mosque fire that was mentioned in the manifesto, and the interesting points about the manifesto that's going to make the media sort of struggle a little bit is that the manifesto disavows Trump completely. The manifesto disavows Trump and calls Trump a Zionist, right? It calls Trump a Zionist, and so the media is going to try to say, well, this is Trump. He's causing, the rise of anti-Semitism, and he's causing this and that. That's how the media is going to want to spin it. But you read the documents, and you go, no, there's something else deeper going on here, and it's definitely not about Trump. And then of course we have to talk about this came up too. This is something that conservative media maybe doesn't want to pay attention to, but I think we should pay attention to all of this. And that's why people come to me, is the driver who struck pedestrians in California thought they were Muslim. So there was an attack the other night, didn't get much coverage, where somebody in Sunnyvale, California, drove into a group of pedestrians, drove into around eight people, and now it appears that he thought that they were Muslim. So now the media. So here's what happens with these stories: if they're anti-Christian, the media just wants to run away from them, right? Or if it appears that it's, jihad or something, then the media doesn't want to report it. But then when you find out it's against Muslims, then they want to report it. But I want to report on all of it. I want to find out what is really going on. And people are losing their minds, actually. There's mass hysteria, mass insanity happening in America right now, and pointing fingers at one group of people. Like I said, I have people trying to loop me into this stuff with these people. Even though for me, I'm clearly on record against all of this stuff for years, right? But they want to divide. They're the same agents. They don't understand that they're plugged into the same energy of hatred and divisiveness, where who do we blame for this? Who can we point fingers at this? How can we weaponize this against the other side? Oh, the New York Times today had a cartoon and it was anti-Semitic. So this is about the New York Times, Ilhan Omar, who was clearly anti-Semitic. But this guy was a Nazi guy, right? So this guy wasn't a devotee of Ilhan Omar. This guy was, he thinks he's waging some kind of holy war, right? So the simple narratives have to all be rejected there. There's much more to it than who can we blame. And that's where people have to look at themselves and look at the rhetoric coming from all sources, even too. But again, what we're going to be able to expect now is we're going to be able to expect they're going to try to blame Trump for this, right? Even though the manifesto disavows Trump. But the media is going to try to spin it that way because that's the game, right? Oh, who can they blame it on? That's how it works all the time. So they're going to try to blame it on Trump this time, even though the shooter hates Trump. The synagogue shooter hated Trump in Pittsburgh, right? So we have 2 synagogue shootings now. They don't like Trump. But then they want to say Trump is responsible for this somehow. And that, of course, is why we're not going to get better if that's the kind of rhetoric people use. But I don't use any of that rhetoric. I don't have time for anti-Christian hate, anti-Muslim hate, anti-Jewish hate, anti-any group of people hate. I don't have time for any of that stuff. But we're living in a culture now where depending on what side you are, you're allowed to hate the other people, us versus them. This has all been talked about in Howard Bloom's The Lucifer Principle and in other areas. There's always been an us and them, and everybody is now looking for an us and them and tribalism. But the problem is that everybody loses. This is what people, because society has been so easy on people, this is what people don't understand. People don't understand how ahistorical Western civilization is. People don't understand the human condition and how miserable and rotten it is for almost all of human history, and that we have a good thing here. We have a good gig. And nobody wins if they're, people talk, oh, well, Civil War. I don't talk about stuff like that. Do you know where that leads? Right? Nobody's safe where you're just in a cafe like you're in Beirut or somewhere, and you just accept as a part of life that you might go out with your friends and have fun and live a normal life, and a car may explode down. This is where we're headed in the West, right? That's absurd. I told people this years ago. I said domestic terrorism is going to become. I predicted this. I predicted all of this, and what the media is doing isn't helping what these left-wing groups are doing. What the right-wing groups are doing isn't helping either. All right, us and them is not helping anyone. And on these issues, there needs to be more leadership, and I've been working to show that leadership, and Trump needs to be showing more leadership as well. To be quite frank on this, because this is something that we all have to preserve. I don't think people understand how terrible what it is. I got to joke with the glibness that people have, the just absolute glibness people have for no appreciation for what we have here. I have nothing but appreciation for what we have in the West. I've been all over the world. We have a good gig here. People don't realize it. Maybe people haven't struggled enough. People don't understand what a good thing we have. But I don't see enough people showing enough leadership and rejecting all of it. I reject all of it, all the hate. And then, of course, what I love is when I reject the hate, then, of course, the left, they get triggered, and then they try to say, no, you can't It's all like they want people. It's so sickening, really. Where for years I've been on record renouncing all of this, saying this is sickening. People, this is going in a bad direction. And then the left gets triggered, and then they want to say, no, you can't. They want to make me hate, so they attack me. Have you noticed that? Have you noticed that as my message has returned to the more mindset positive unification message, you notice the attacks are more nasty? They want people to be hate figures. So I've just rejected. They keep working harder and harder to try to make me one. Because the left needs hate figures, because that's us and them. We're going to make you afraid of this person. We need to make you afraid of that person so that they can further divide. I reject all of it.
Chief?
Thank you, sir. Good afternoon. As this incident was unfolding, a San Diego police officer, canine officer, was en route to the scene. He was monitoring both the San Diego Police Department's dispatch and the sheriff's dispatch, heard the call and started making his way towards this call. As he was en route, he also overheard.
So this here is Chief of Police San Diego, 19-year-old suspect, arrest made without incident.
Good afternoon. As this the CHP.
So what are the solutions, people? That's what we need now. There's enough people out there screaming at each other, spreading hatred. There's enough of that. It's up to us now to lead leadership. It's up to us. For no other reason than for our selfish interests. That's what I try to tell people is, in the West, you take it for granted that you can just go about your day, or we did, maybe we won't now, that you can go into a house of worship and that would be understood as a sacred place and not a place you would attack someone. In The Wire, there was even a scene about how you don't even go after people on Sunday morning because people are going to church, Sunday truce. It was always understood that there are just certain things you don't do or certain places you don't go. And that would always include house of worship. So even here I have people in Super Chats trying to, spread their hatred, and I'm blocking that immediately. That's what they do. I don't know if they're real people or if they're just trying to, they'll say, oh, look at Cernovich's chat. Yeah, look at the chat and then clip this video where I'm deleting all this stuff, right? Because I don't have any room. There's no room for that, for hatred of any group of people. So we have somebody going, Cernovich sensationalism, mass shooting, 1 dead. See, this is the kind of, again, demonic energy. There are multiple people shot, 1 person is dead, and they're saying that it's not a mass shooting. This is, again, of course, just the glibness that people have for society, for modern civilization. They have no appreciation because they've never struggled. They've never had it hard. If you've never had it hard, like you grew up poor like me, and then you start to live a nice life, you realize what we have. But if you live some pampered life, like most of these edgelords on the internet, never struggled. They can't even struggle in the gym. They can't even get in shape. They can't even get under a barbell and do a squat. They don't have any sense of, no, it would be a terrible place. And the people who think they're so edgy and controversial and tough and cool, they'd be the first ones that would be completely, they would be the first weaklings, right? So again, we have more and more people, trying to, so I'm just deleting all of this stuff. And if you try to make a hateful comment in my super chat, I'm going to assume that you're false flagging, but if you're sincere, I don't care, I'll just donate whatever it is to charity. But so I'm deleting them and removing them. But if you keep doing it, then I'll just donate it to the groups that you wouldn't want it to be donated to, because I know what you're up to, and I know what people are trying to do. This is not my first rodeo, and that's, these people are just so weak. They've never struggled. They don't understand how beautiful civilization is, and that's of course what I find ironic too, is the people who claim they want to preserve Western civilization don't appreciate it. They don't appreciate art, poetry. They're not going to museums. They're staying online all day being angry or playing video games. as if a video game is the apex of Western civilization. That's where these people are. Oh, they love the Western world so much that they play video games all day. They're not enjoying the opera, the symphony, higher art, higher culture. So it's LARPing. And the LARPing is unfortunately ruining people's minds and reprogramming people's minds in a bad way. So I just want to be clear. The left is trying to create more hysteria. They're going to try to lie about this. We have to deny all of it. We have to renounce all of it. I don't have any room for any of this. So if you have hatred in your heart, as I always say, just unfollow. There are people who love to pander to you for whatever your hatred is. Whether you hate Trump supporters or you hate demon, like people call Democrats demon rats, right? First of all, that's not clever or funny. Second of all, go away. That's just vile. I don't talk about people like that. I don't refer to demon rats, right? That's the same kind of mindset that the left has when they call Trump supporters Nazis. I don't think in those terms. It's sickening. So I don't want any of that crap around me. Just go away if that's what you want to do. There are people so desperate for views. Oh my God, they'll pander to you, whatever you hate. If you hate Christians, you can go to BuzzFeed, read them. If you hate Muslims, there's a whole bunch of right-wing sites that'll pander to you. Oh, Sharia law is coming, right? There are so many. You have so many other people and places to go that are just so desperate for some kind of attention or views that they'll pander to you. But that is not Cernovich. That's not our message. Our message is about unity, knowing the truth about the world, finding solutions, and finding a way to live together in harmony. Thanks for watching. I'm Mike Cernovich, cernovich.com, CERNOVICH.com. I'll be reporting more about the shooting as more information comes to us.